Recently, the Americans, our good friends, the Americans, recently released what they call their national security policy. It's a document that they release from time to time. I don't think it's done every year, but every new administration does that at least once. So they have released this document in public, the US National Security Policy. Wonderful, nice read. Yeah, multiple pages and all that. And Indians are very happy about this document because, first of all, there is no mention of Pakistan in the document, which obviously pleases Indians a great deal. If there is no mention of Pakistan in a US document, Indians are very happy. Indians feel like, yeah, we have done it, we made it, we pushed Pakistan out. And secondly, India has been mentioned, I think, 7 or 8 times in the national security policy of the US. So that again makes Indians very happy. Wow, they mentioned us 7 times or 8 times or whatever it is. Indians are so happy with nice words. Yeah, it's so easy to please Indians. Say a few nice words about India. Mention India multiple times in the document. That will please Indians. Yeah, let's celebrate. Utsav ki tayari karo, like you say, right? What does this mean? Does it and they have mentioned India as essentially an ally, I believe, in that national security policy document. India is an ally. India is a major defense partner. Blah 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 blah. And yes, the Indian population is happy. Indians are happy. Indian commentators and analysts are happy. The news channels are going gaga gaga over this. What does this all mean? Are India and the US allies again? So first of all, let's understand something. Warfare is based on deception. Yeah, good old cliche. We've all heard it 1,000 times. All warfare is based on deception. All geopolitics is also based on deception. You never let your enemies and your allies know what you're really thinking. That's what it's all about. Now, when that is the entire foundation of geopolitics and of everything, of warfare, diplomacy is war by other means. So when deception is the entire foundation of warfare, when you're releasing a public document, are you going to put your real national security policy in there? No, obviously not. Whatever national security policy the US publishes is only for public consumption. It's not the real national security policy. It doesn't make any sense for them to tell the whole world what they truly seek to do and what they truly think or feel about their national security and what their policy is going to be. Why would you tell the whole world what your policy is going to be? You would never do that. So the national security policy of the US is a public document. It's a document for public consumption. It's a document that essentially serves to mislead the world, to deceive the world. All geopolitics is based on deception. All competition of any kind is based on deception. You playing cricket. Are you going to tell the opposing captain and the team what your tactics and strategies are going to be? You never do that. Whether it's cricket, whether it's football, or whatever else, you never do that. You hold your cards as close as possible to your chest and you don't reveal your plans. So why would the US reveal its plans, its policy? The US national security policy should not be taken seriously by anybody who has a thinking mind, right? So India is mentioned 7 or 8 times, Pakistan is mentioned 0 times, and China is mentioned, I think, one more time than India. So if India was mentioned 8 times, I think China was mentioned 9 times, or if it's 7, then 8, something like that. So take that. Now, there are other things also you have to consider. Actions versus words. A document that is released in public is a collection of words. Why do words make you so happy? I just don't get it. Words are meaningless. Words can be changed at any given point in time, as in value when you wish. You have to look at the actions. If you want to understand what the US really feels about India or what their real policy is, don't look at their words, ignore the words, look at their actions. And look at the actions of their proxies, of their vassal states. Please do that, and you will understand what's really happening. So let's take a look at some of the actions of the US vassal states, shall we? So, which are the US vassal states, by the way? uh, if you have for any time, for any stretch of time, watched this channel and listened to what I say, you will know that South Korea is a US vassal state because South Korea has been under permanent US occupation, more than 100 military bases since the 1950s. Japan is a US vassal state, more than 130 permanent military bases of the US on Japanese territory most of them since 1945, right? Then you have Germany, which is a US vassal state, again under permanent US military occupation since 1945. The same goes for Italy. Then you have Spain. I haven't mentioned Spain before, if I can recall correctly. Spain has, I believe, only two US military bases. One is called Moron and one is called Rota. So both of these US military bases have been in Spain since the 1950s, between 1953 and 1958, right? And the US military base in Rota in Spain is one of the largest military bases they have outside their country. So you have Spain, you have Germany, you have the entire EU is essentially a collection of US vassals, because the one major power in the Europe, in Western Europe, is the US. It's not Germany or France or any other nation. It's the US which is the major power. It is the one power that has held Europe together and prevented any warfare because of its oversight. So NATO is a bunch of US vassal states. The European Union is a bunch of US vassal states, and so on and so forth. Right? That's how it is. So now now I said ignore words and look at actions. What's happening? What actions are we seeing? Let's take a look at some of the actions of the US vassal states, shall we? So let's talk about South Korea. South Korea and Pakistan hold high-level talks on defense cooperation. That's wonderful. That's all right. But then, what was the outcome of that? So this was from October 11. Now let's take a look at something that happened subsequent to October 11. This is from October 13. Pakistan and South Korea signed a defense deal. Isn't that lovely? They have signed a major defense cooperation agreement to further consolidate the bilateral military relationship between the two nations, and blah, 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 blah. Now, let's understand something. When you talk about South Korea and defense, the South Korean military is headed by a five-star general who happens to be an American general. It's always an American who heads the South Korean military. Why? I mean, can you think of a free, independent nation whose military is led or headed by a citizen of a different country? I mean, can that even happen in a free country? It's impossible. No free country, no self-respecting nation would entrust its military and its national security and its defense to the citizen of a foreign country. But that's what you always have had in South Korea since the 1950s, more or less. So that's where that's where you are with South Korea. So Pakistan and South Korea have signed a defense deal. So that is one of the actions of a US proxy, a US vassal state. So they're talking about India being an ally. On the other hand, you have this happening. Now let's take a look at Japan. As long as Shri Shinzo Abe was alive, Japan and India had great relations, right? We know that. He was a genuine friend of India. Now look what's happening here. Japan rolls over $172 million loan vis-a-vis Pakistan. So this is something that's happening vis-a-vis Japan, and you are also seeing various other Japanese investments in Pakistan. And of course, we know that the Americans are offering a massive deal to the Pakistanis, that F-16 deal, right? Which is worth almost $500 million for servicing and upgrading their F-16 fighter planes, right? So that's what's happening. And the American, what's his name, ambassador to Pakistan has been referring to the illegally Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir as AJK, whatever the hell that means. We know what it means. I will not utter those dirty words here. So that's what the Americans are doing. Now that again is words, but these are words that have a diplomatic that constitute a diplomatic action. Right? It's not just some empty words that have been published in a document. When it comes to diplomacy, words are also actions. When it comes to publishing a document, that's just hot air. So the Americans, through their vassals, are doing all this. South Korea has signed a defense deal with the Pakistanis. Japan is waiving off Pakistan loans or deferring Pakistani loans to Pakistan, and they are also investing in a variety of ways in Pakistan. You have the Americans themselves doing what amounts to enemy action against India. Aiding Pakistan in any way militarily is an enemy action against India. That's what they're doing. And again, you have other things that are happening. For instance, like I mentioned Spain, didn't I? So here's what the Spaniards are doing to India. Let's take a look at that. Spain rejects visa of 21 Indian wrestlers for under 23 World Championships under the pretext that the embassy doubts the intention of the Indian wrestlers to leave Spain, to leave Spanish territory. So 21 Indian wrestlers will not be able to take part in the under 23 World Wrestling Championship in Spain, right? So this is another example of what you can call stealth sanctions on India by the US by proxy. Um, and okay, here's another example from the Sunday Guardian, which explicitly speaks about Victoria Nuland's stealth sanctions against India. Let's take a look at this. Here we are. Here we go. Victoria Nuland's stealth sanctions against India. And it goes into that. So, a communist Chinese citizen can get a visa for travel to the US in 2 or 3 days, but a citizen of India has to wait for 2 or 3 years for the privilege, unless one of them, unless you. So, if you are an Indian citizen who already has a pre-existing multiple entry US visa, then you're fine. But if you are a citizen who doesn't, an Indian citizen who does not have a visa and who wants to apply for one, it will take you 2 or 3 years just to get an appointment, right? And this has been explained away by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken as being the consequence of staffing cuts caused by the pandemic and so on and so forth, which is obviously a flimsy lie and so on, right? So that's what the Sunday Guardian calls US stealth sanctions against India, visa denial, and a whole lot of other things. I heard that a couple of Indian companies had been explicitly sanctioned by the US for whatever, right? So you are seeing all these hostile actions by the United States against India. So no matter what they put in their so-called national security policy, that's not going to change the fact that their actions are all anti-India. You're seeing more and more of this happening right now. So please understand. And obviously, did I forget to mention this? Pakistan has been removed from the FATF grey list, the Financial Action Task Force, which means that now Pakistan get any kind of investment from the West, from any nation, without that nation having to worrying about that investment being used for terrorist activities, which is a complete lie. The entire reason for being of Pakistan is to be a terrorist nation, right? So Pakistan is a terrorist nation, and now they have been removed from the FATF, which is apparently headed by an Indian. How nice. And so on, right? So all these organizations, global bodies, etc., are all controlled by either the US or to some extent, to a lower extent, China. The Chinese have infiltrated the UN, the WHO, etc., to at a variety of levels, but overall it's still all controlled by the United States. So I think it was yesterday or today or in the last 24 hours that the news emerged that Pakistan has been removed from the grey list, the watch list, the grey watch list of the FATF. And obviously, this is all done at the behest of the US. It is all done under US supervision. So now they're once again using Pakistan, just like they did in the 20th century, against India as a counterweight to India in order to destabilize India. And these are messages they are sending to India that fall in line, get on your knees against us, in front of us, or we're gonna, you're gonna ratchet this up further. So please do not get enthused by the nice flowery language they've used in their national security policy, mentioning India 7 or 8 times and calling India an ally and major whatever partner, major defense partner, security partner. They talk of the Indo-Pacific and all that. Forget the words, look at the actions. The actions are all right now anti-India, and this I expect will get worse as the days go by, because India is refusing to to have to become a US vassal state. Yeah. India has an independent foreign policy. India has a foreign policy that is in line with India's long-term national interest, and the US doesn't want that. They want the foreign policy of India to be in line with the US national interest and whatever the US wants, which would obviously be not good for India or any other nation, right? So that's where we are. So I don't expect things to get better anytime soon between India and the US. Maybe it will actually deteriorate. So we need to keep on watching this very closely, right? So that's the thing about the US national security policy and whatever they've said in that. Please do not be misled or fooled by those nice words.